Hello and welcome to part 2 of building a Dutch windmill in Planet Coaster. And in this episode, mainly the body of the windmill gets completed. The body and the roof, and I tried to make it work into one episode, but I think it will be one more episode after this where I continue on the base and the landscaping, etc, etc. So in this episode you will see me come up with a way to fix the roof into place. I was really unsure about how to go about making the roof. But before the roof comes about, I have to finish off the very top of the windmill, as you can see here, the top of the green part. In this model that I was using to design the windmill, it had some panelings that were in the color of the Dutch flag, and I thought that was really kind of cool looking, so I decided to put that in there with, you know, I think it's light red or orange. They say orange or red. I think it's red. But like a sort of orangey hued red, and then white, and then sort of like a light blue. It could be the French flag, it could be American, it could be, you know, British, because, you know, but then again, those colors are a little bit different if you pay closer attention, or at least the red is very different. I've seen Dutch flags with many different hues of red, sometimes darker, sometimes lighter, depending on the printing and this kind of thing. But it should be a sort of orangey red, sort of light orangey red. I think anyone from Holland can probably explain that a bit better than I can. I'm not even sure what the colors mean or why or anything like that. I am not really a huge flag expert or fan or whatever. I mean, I like some flags, don't get me wrong, but I think these sort of European flags, which are just sort of three striped colors, are kind of boring. No offense to anyone's flag if you like those flags, no offense. I mean I don't really take these things I say seriously, so don't worry about that. But I think the ones that are just sort of like stripes, I mean, you see literally most European countries have that, have just, you know, like three colors, and it looks like a football team. It looks really dull, I think, but you know, but it's just a flag. It's not supposed to look pretty. It's supposed to signify stuff about nationalistic aspects of a country. I don't know, and I'm digressing. This has nothing to do with windmills, as you can plainly hear. So I'm moving on to the top of the windmill now. I decided to change some colors of the top to give some definition to the structure. It's about choosing the right color for the right panel. Most of this building is just made from the same piece, but hopefully it's harder to see that by the color coordination. So I chose a darker color here because it correlated to the reference that I was using, but also because it gives a nice contrast to the white lining. The white lining is kind of what sells the shape as a windmill. As I said in the previous episode, it's what, you know, gives it the look. And I think if I continued with green above it, it could have worked too, but I wanted to change the colors up a bit. Plus, at the top of the windmill, I wanted to, I mean, these parts, I think, no, it's not that part that spins, is it? It's the part below it. So I thought, yeah, maybe it's to do with all the technicalities of the design, you know, all the ways it functions. But I don't think that's true, actually. I just think it's just a design aspect for the look of it. So now I'm moving on to the roof, and I looked through several different options on how to approach the roof, using either a tiled piece, using I think I tried a little bit to use the thatched roofing, and it didn't work either, but I didn't use the place your own thatched roofing, but I didn't use any of those in the end. You will see in a little while, I used this random wooden piece that was circular and like a cylindrical, but you can't change the color of it. Luckily for me, the color that the piece had really sort of gave off the colors that you see in these Dutch windmills. So I was very sort of satisfied in the end when I came up with the roof and how it looked in the very end. But the way I'm going about it now, I was just never satisfied. It wasn't complex enough, and it wasn't really my own. Sometimes when I use these pieces that are fixed to the grid, I feel that I could make the same sort of piece but with multiple little pieces, and of course that's not great for frame rate. But I always think it's sort of copping out sometimes if I'm using pieces simply. That's basically, I mean, I tried to push myself a bit more. When I started out playing Planet Coaster, I was very, very like, oh, I want to use the things conventionally, herpty-derpty-doo. But the more I played, and the more my channel grew, and the more I watched other people's Let's builds, it really helped push myself to create more complex shapes. I could have just made this windmill in a very simple way, but it wouldn't have looked realistic enough for me, and that is what I love about this game. There's so many options, and there's about thousands of different ways to build the same thing, and it's very cool in that regard. So I'm moving on to the flag part of the top. This is the little part I was talking about earlier. This is the base blue, and then the center white I decided to make very narrow, just because it looked better. It reflected the design that I was going with, that I was referencing, and I thought it would have been, it just gives off more of a 3D shape, and more of the shadows get cast, and the building looks a bit more natural, I hope. Now, this is the last bit of the main base, which is the sort of another dark green sort of paneled area, and after I used it, I really liked the way it looked on the inside with the wood paneling. It actually looks sort of like an interior. Unfortunately, you won't see that, but I thought it looked quite nice. The deep color contrast looks very cool, and I really like that piece I used as well. It's a very versatile piece. I've used it in many different things, from furniture to interiors to floors to stairs. A lot of my buildings use that piece as a stair on the side. So I mean, it's a very versatile piece. I don't even know what it's meant for. It looks like a sort of storm cellar door, something like that, but I have no clue what it's used for. But I'm using it very, very often. So now I'm lining off the front of the roof shape with this sort of really, I don't know how to describe that shape. It has some elements of a barn roof, some elements of a fantasy building, but at the same time very, very natural looking. I don't know how to describe it, but I knew that it was very difficult to accomplish. But as a rim for the windows and for the roof, I think it looks very, very cool. I've been also saying to myself that a lot of the windows, the lining of the windows is really, really thick, and that can bug me sometimes because I think it can sort of distract from the design. So this is why at the moment you can see me cover up the concrete rims of this window. The glass section, the interior was pretty much perfect. Like, I love the circular designs on the inside, but I had to cover up the outside because concrete wouldn't work here. Windmills that I was looking at, and this one was made entirely out of wood, and you know, these kind of, not wood, but you know, natural materials and things like that. I'm not sure if all the windmills are made that way, but most of the windmills that I saw were painted wood. The roofs themselves were something like thatched roofs or wood themselves, but the roofs themselves always are very, very circular, and that's why the shape was quite difficult to get in the beginning. It gradually curves out, and there's not a lot of objects in the game yet that allow you for such control in this regard. But this object seemed to suit my purpose well enough. I mean, it was probably the most complex part of the windmill, apart from changing the direction of each wood paneling, which was just a pain. This was a bit more challenging in the sense that I didn't actually quite know how to accomplish this, but by this point of the build, you know, about where I am now, I started to see it started to really click, and it started to really come together, and that is the best part about making things. When you start to think, yeah, it's gonna work, it's gonna look nice, it's gonna look nice. It sometimes can be really, really difficult for me to get myself into this flow, but once I'm in this flow, I don't want to leave it for days or, you know, months. But at the moment, I am starting to get a bit slow with my Planet Coaster, with my Netherland Park, because I really want to make sure that each building is as unique as I can, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, and I get the feeling that I might be repeating myself too much. I'm even coming to the thought that some of my buildings in my city center, in my park in Planet Coaster, repeat themselves way too much, and I'm thinking it's possible I need like double the amount of buildings that I have now, just so that each building is different. But I think that's a bit nuts. Like, you know, it's not real life and you don't have to make every building unique, but sometimes I'm really looking at the city and I'm thinking, well, in Holland that would all be a different building, and I'm just always push myself a bit further than I need to, and whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist in that sense, and I just want my current park to be as real as I can, so that I think to myself when I'm walking around it, yeah, this could be built in real life. Like, this makes sense in a design way. And I mean, at the moment, the layouts of the roller coasters may be the most unrealistic part. The layouts of the queue areas, I think I tried to make it as realistic as I can. That being said, the only area with a realistic queue area in my current park, really, I would say, is the Haunted House Dark Ride, because it has Fast Pass and this kind of thing. It's the only ride with Fast Pass. So I have to work a bit more. I mean, that's something I have to work on quite a lot more in my park. Layouts and, you know, the path system. It's not as flexible as I would like, but you have to work with its limitations. But at the same time, I'm getting a bit bored. Do you guys get this where you've been making something for so long that you start to get used to it and you think it could look better and you get bored of it? And that happens to me quite a lot, and I don't know quite what to do about that. I don't know how people just continue to go with art things when they don't have really good ideas, and that's something I've always struggled with. When I don't want to be creative, that's when it's most difficult. But when I do, it lasts for days and it can be quite natural. I don't know, and I digress. So as you can see right now, you can see how much of a challenge and a struggle it was to create this roof. It was fun on the whole, but I didn't, you know, as you can see, I didn't repeat things, I didn't copy and paste it, it wouldn't have worked. And this was before the update where I could place things easier, so it's quite, you know, you should be able to see that I could have done it easier had I been making it now, but that's, you know, that's the way. So the cookie crumbles and it's getting to night mode. Oh, now it's the day mode. Goody goo. Oh god. Well, I'm about halfway through the video and I talked for a while, but I'm gonna continue talking because this is how you get better at something. You do it, and even if you don't want to do it. And that's something I really have to learn. Doing something I don't want to because it could pay off for me in the future. It's difficult for me to care about how I'm going to feel in the future, even though I always end up thinking to myself, in the future, I wish I cared about how I felt in the future. And now I'm starting to sound really weird. So I will continue talking about the roof. And now we're moving on to the back of the windmill's roof. This triangular accent was also apparent in the reference material I was using, and I think it turned out quite nice. I quite like the way it looked quite true to life, true to what I was going for, and I was surprised. But now you can see a problem I have run into, being that the wood panels only come in 2 sizes, and please Frontier, give us more sizes to this. There are finer bits of detailing that I can't really do accurately as I want, because the pieces don't allow for it because they are too big. I'm not even sure if they will give us smaller pieces. Usually they don't, because having lots of little mini pieces is not great for processing power or whatever. But I really think they should have a section of just building materials, you know? Parts of buildings that are basically made up of little parts. Wood panels is one of them. I mean, they have a few of them, but they don't correlate to everything. We need more options for that. I'm hoping that will come soon, but we need a sort of a tile set, or what are they called? No, like a theme. but a theme with just building materials, like parts of buildings and building materials with no designs, with like no theme, so they're not festive, they're not this, they're not that, they're just many different architectural features like finales or carvings and etchings and moldings and these kind of things, and arches, parts of arches and parts of columns, that you can put together that don't follow any real design principles. Maybe it could be the architecture theme, so you could make so many more things as realistic as possible. This is something that I think won't come for a long time, if it ever does, but I really think having a theme for building based on more architectural styles than themes in themselves would be more useful and could be used more things. So instead of having, a Western theme where you use those pillars, but those wooden pillars and things can be used in more than just Western buildings. I would also I thought they would have made it so you could change the material the object's made out of, and I think that won't be able to happen because of the way they've designed the game. They haven't even considered making resizable objects an option because of the way that the game's designed. So I don't think that will happen, because in The Sims 3 you could change the objects to different materials as well as different colors. And I think they won't do that. Plus, I don't think the textures would be as good, because these textures that they've used in this game are almost 3D. Like, you can see like the scratches on the wood, and it looks almost 3D. So I think that won't be happening. But I think they could definitely make certain objects that's a possibility. But I guess I can only dream. Like my most wanted sort of things for them to release in terms are all building related or they're scenery related. I don't really care as much about rides. I mean, the only ride that I would like to see is a realistic Omni-Mover, which is a dark ride, track ride thing. The ones in the game at the moment don't cut it for me. You can't change the direction of where the seat is placed. No dark ride is just facing frontwards all the time. It doesn't allow for larger, steeper drops, which can happen with dark rides. All in all, I mean, I would love something also like Mystic Manor, a magnetized track ride, and the ability to at least set it up in the way that they could in real life. I mean, I'm probably asking for way too much, but I definitely would like to see more in that regard. I mean, because this game is so good otherwise. I mean, there are other little nitpicks that don't matter as much to me. For instance, like the trains. Why couldn't we have them more working like real trains? Why can't we have Y-shaped tracks? Why can't we have a turning circle track where the train can turn around? Why can't we make the trains from one stop to another and not a circle? These kind of things. I know they don't matter, but if I wanted to recreate something like Disneyland as accurate as I could, I know they have these features in their rides that don't exist in the game as of now. For instance, when I was looking at plans to make the Haunted Mansion from scratch and a recreation of the Haunted Mansion in this game, what I saw on the plans was that the loading area and the deloading area are completely separated. Like, they don't get off and on at the same area. They get off in one area and it comes, and the offloading area are separated from the unloading area, so those segments are different, and you can make the scenes in those areas different, have a different vibe. That's something that this game could definitely do, and I don't see that happening as much. I mean, a lot of people are, a lot of the complaints and nitpicks with Planet Coaster because they did such a great job. But I know that they're probably going to work on a lot of the issues that we are wanting. But I think, just a bit more thought to go into the dark rides, because I think in a way it feels like they're a bit of an afterthought. It feels like the triggers were made for roller coasters, and then, oh, you can do dark rides too, kind of thing. I could be wrong in that regard, but because the dark rides or all the track rides are the same, they just I mean, just a bit more foresight into the way the rides run, maybe. I don't think we need 1,000 different dark ride track rides. We don't need a sleigh ride. We don't need a cat ride. We need those trains to be available on one ride. That's the way Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 operated, and I think that would be much more useful. For instance, I wanted to put in the new train in my park because it suited to my park better, and it came out after my park was more or less built in that plot. but there's no way of putting that new train in unless I delete the old train. And I don't know why they chose that as a sort of concept. I don't know. I mean, the way I would have designed the Rhines personally, I love the way the Rhines are designed, don't get me wrong, but I would have made it so each flat ride has about 5 different themed skins, so they all work. You can select them from a list, so you build the top spin, but then there's a fantasy top spin, the horror top spin, etc, etc. That's something I would have approached it that way, so it gives more flexibility. And but then again, they have to make all like 5 skins for one ride, so I understand why they don't want to do it. I think too many of the things here are too themed. And for me, I like to build my own themes and these kind of things that don't correlate to a general theme. And so yeah, it's a bit more annoying for me. But then again, I'm complaining. I sound like I'm just complaining a lot, but I'm not. I love this game, but I see so much potential, and I have so many ideas as to how to make it better. But I mean, if you never discussed with yourself or other people how to make the game better, it would never become better, and laziness would prevail. Anyway, it's almost the 20-minute mark. I think this episode goes on for a few more minutes before it ends. I just finished off this area going around the windmill, making it a bit more hexagonal and make a bit more sense. And in the next episode, part 3, you will see me build a circular base. So I don't use what you see there is not what I use in the end. I always ended up thinking to myself, I don't like these pieces that are fixed to the grid. They don't work for this build, and they didn't. So in the end, I used sort of a circular wall and made it look circular, which you'll see from the promo videos. And that's it, and I'll see you next time. Why don't you click in one of these boxes and you can see what else I've been doing if you don't know already, and I will see you soon in part 3. Bye for now.